What a whirlwind of a week it's been in the world of transfers. Just trying to keep up with it on AFTV has been an absolute nightmare. Thank you, Arsenal, making it very easy. There's so much to talk about, and we are going to talk about some of that Arsenal stuff as well. But let's start with the best player on the planet, and it is Kylian Mbappe, because he's apparently said he wants to leave PSG, although it's all got a little bit complicated. He had a contract that ran till 2024 with an option to extend till 2025. He has said that he is not going to extend that contract by the extra year, and apparently he'd always told PSG that was going to be the case. PSG don't want to lose him for nothing, and if that's going to be their stance, they have to sell him in summer of 2023. Where could he go? Apparently there's interest in Saudi Arabia, of course there would be, there's interest from everywhere. Real Madrid, maybe a likely destination, have just spent nearly 100 million on Jude Bellingham, which by the way got completed this week and all the announcements. That was nice to see. Good on Jude Bellingham. But it's very finely poised, because he basically, I think, would rather just see out the contract. Of course, players like to move when their contracts have run out. It gives them a little bit more negotiation power on the contract front with their new clubs. But look, Man United apparently aren't in the race. Will Man City keep an eye? I'm not sure, because they've got Haaland and they're playing a slightly different way at the moment. Chelsea, well, FFP and all that, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to find out what happens with Kylian Mbappe, but he is on the move this summer, because PSG aren't going to let him go for free, or will he just bide his time, convince them to keep him another year? But do you really want to lose a Kylian Mbappe for free? And by the way, if it does go this window, it could be around 120 million. That could be an absolute steal. Of course, you've got wages and everything, but generally, that's a bit of a steal for who I think is the best player in the world. Let's go through this Declan Rice stuff. Now, Arsenal have done a lot of work. It's been a crazy week for Arsenal. So they've done a lot of work in this Declan Rice deal. Essentially, he has pretty much agreed personal terms. That's not an issue. Apparently, he's told everyone, including Bayern Munich, that he wants to go to Arsenal, but he remains essentially a West Ham player until Arsenal agreed that fee. And apparently they've been sitting down having talks for a long time with West Ham, back and forth. They've been trying to work on this deal since January, and now we're in a situation where it's about putting that first bid, and it's been rejected. Arsenal put in a bid of what was about 80 million plus 10 million add-ons. That comes to about 90 million. I'll be honest, I actually think that's a fair price for Declan Rice, but we know they want nearer 120 million, West Ham, and Arsenal aren't going to go to that. But you'd have thought with all these conversations and negotiations and back and forth, Arsenal would know what West Ham's demands are and what they would need to put forward to get this deal done. But that's not where they are at the moment. And apparently West Ham are pretty incensed by the offer. They're going to say that, and the media are going to feed off that. I'll be honest, 90 million is a pretty reasonable offer, but don't mess around too much. If this is your target and you're willing to go to 100 million, like a lot of media outlets have said, Arsenal reportedly willing to go to 100 million, that's more what West Ham want. Just do it. But we'll see, because they've now apparently withdrawn their interest in Cecil, which is fascinating. We'll touch on that a little bit later. So it does feel like everything is in the Rice basket in terms of that midfield area, unless this player, Kai Havertz, is coming to Arsenal to play in midfield. Now, there's a video out on AFTV in Focus where I've discussed where he could play, and my theory is that he's going to play actually as depth for the front line all the way across the front three, mainly perhaps the right wing and striking positions, where maybe on the left, where Martinelli, Nelson, Trossard can all do a brilliant job. I'm not sure Arteta loves his options as Nelson as a right winger, Fabio Vieira on the right, Eddie Nketiah up front. They're okay, but on the left he seems pretty stacked. Havertz could do a job in either position, but it looks like Arsenal are going to have to pay around 50 to 60 million to get Kai Havertz. Apparently Chelsea wants 75 million, but according to Fabrizio Romano, they recognise that they're not going to get that. So again, I think Arsenal will get this one done. How do I feel about it? I'm not 100% sure. I've talked about where he could fit in, but the reality is that his kind of languid style and how he's been for 3 years in the Premier League, he doesn't scream Arteta player. He strikes me as a very technically gifted player. He's technical. I like him. He's got some quality. I like him in terms of his potential. I think there's something there. I think I kind of enjoy his footballing style and I can watch him and all that. But whether he fits into the high pressing game, intense football that we've been playing under Arteta, I'm not 100% sure. So we'll keep an eye on Havertz, but I do think that is likely to happen. As I mentioned then, Caicedo, Arsenal withdrawn, which means Chelsea are now in the driving seat for Moises Caicedo, and I think they have been really the whole time. You've got to wonder why Arsenal keep approaching targets one window, and then when the opportunity is there to kind of get the deal done, maybe the window after, where you'd think it'd be a bit easier to, they don't do it. We saw that with Houssem Aouar. They wanted about 50 million, they'd agreed something near the time, but things got messed up. But they never went back for Houssem Aouar despite chasing him for a long time. And there's lots of other players as well. Think Vlahovic, think Rafinha, think Douglas Luiz at the end of the last window. Now Caicedo's another one. Why do Arsenal seem to go for players in one window and then they don't want to go anywhere near them after that? It seems a bit strange. But Chelsea are in the driving seat. I think they'll do this deal. But they're also looking at Amadou Onana of Everton. I think he had a really good debut season. He stands at 6'4". He can play as a 6 and as an 8. He's good on the ball. He's technical, but he's got the energy as well. And I really sort of liked watching him for Everton, especially, I mean, not that I enjoyed the result. Obviously, we lost at Goodison, but I thought he played really well in that game. And yeah, it's just looked quite good whenever I've watched Everton. So interesting to see what happens with Onana and Caicedo and Chelsea. But having added Enzo, they're losing Kovacic, they're losing Mount, they're losing Havertz, potentially all three of them. I think they could go for Caicedo and Onana because they need to beef up that midfield, not just in terms of defensive ability, but actual bit of height and presence. Caicedo is presence in terms of his ability to get around the pitch, but I'm not sure he is in terms of that stature. When you've got Enzo as well, I think Onana could complement them very, very well. That's a brand new midfield for Pochettino to work with. So let's see what happens there. Talking of other midfielders, the one that I wish Arsenal were in for, James Maddison. Now, the story here is that Newcastle and Tottenham had been following him. Tottenham have now made a bid, £50 million all in, for James Maddison and Harvey Barnes. I mean, you're hearing West Ham say that they're incensed by Arsenal's £90 million offer. I think Maddison's a supremely talented player, and 50 million alone for him, I'm not sure they'd 100% accept. So to go 50 million all in for the both, I think that's a pretty insulting offer, but I really like what they're thinking here because they're also looking at David Raya from Brentford. Barnes, Maddison, Raya, I like that. I'll be honest. Listen, I'm an Arsenal fan. I don't want good for Tottenham, but I think Postecoglou is a good appointment. I've said that in other videos on the channel, and I think those three will be really good signs. They need more out wide. Maddison adds some creativity they desperately need in this squad. They've got to go get Kulusevski tied down and actually pay and get that sorted. And then David Raya, good distribution. He's done well in the Premier League since arriving with Brentford. I really like the way Tottenham are thinking. I hate to say it. It does mean that Newcastle are in a weird situation because they were looking at Maddison. So will they come in and go in for a bidding war? I do think Newcastle have the ability to basically outspend Tottenham and basically gazump them to Maddison, especially when they've got European football, not just European football, but Champions League football, and their trajectory seems better than Tottenham's. But I just think you never know. I can see the appeal of going to Tottenham for a James Maddison, although I don't know if he's been the most complimentary about them in the past. But if they don't go for Maddison, there is Barella. Now, there were reports and links. £50 million was close to being agreed between Newcastle and Inter Milan for Barella. A lot of people have rubbished that now. It came from really good sources, but it has been rubbish now. Everyone's saying, no, Inter Milan, A, would want more than that, and B, Barella's not even 100% sure he even wants to leave Inter Milan. Inter Milan, one of the biggest clubs in Italy, just got to a Champions League final. Italian players tend to be very happy in Italy. So we will see, but that would be a very good signing. I have to say, for Newcastle, Barella probably fits their midfield three, that Liverpool Klopp-esque midfield three with Joe Linton, with Longstaff, with Willett, with Guimaraes, probably more than Maddison fits into that midfield three. So I could see them going for Barella. I could see that, and I think Maddison will end up at Tottenham because they seem the most aggressive in trying to bring him. And you'd think there'd be lots of suitors for him, but apparently not at the moment. Talking of attacking midfielders who are on the move, Mason Mount as well. Man United apparently made a bid of about 40 million. Chelsea flat out rejected it, wants 70 million. You'd think they might agree at around 50, 55, which I actually think is still probably a decent deal for United. My issue, and I talked about it in my last video, my issue with this deal isn't what I think of Mason Mount. I actually quite like Mason Mount. If he came to Arsenal, I'd be happy. If he came to Arsenal as our number 8 signing, I'd be okay with that. I think he's got something to offer. I think as a workhorse, but also has more quality in the final third that I think Chelsea have got out of him. I think that's true of Havertz and Kovacic and lots of these players that have been picked up by Arsenal, Man United, Man City, all in the Champions League. But I think when you look at Mason Mount and this Man United situation, it's all about who is that midfielder for Man United that complements Bruno, final third output, Mount, his running ability, Casemiro, the tackler. That maybe seems like a decent balance, but you need someone that is the play dictator. Eriksen maybe, but I think he lacks too much in terms of energy and legs to keep up. I think he's maybe decent when you've got a lot of the ball. But otherwise, I think they need someone else in there, and I think they will look at another midfielder. It was De Jong last summer. They've been linked to Rabiot as well. So let's see. Interesting to see what Man United do. And apparently they were also missing out on Kim Min-jae because he could be going to Bayern Munich. That will be a disappointing one. That seemed to be the first choice centre-back target. He's been brilliant for Napoli, but it looks like he could be going to Bayern Munich. So where does that leave Man United as well? Interesting one. This transfer window has been pretty sublime already. We haven't barely even mentioned that Man City are coming in for Rice and that they're looking at Kovacic as well, and we still don't know what's going on with Gundogan. There is so much happening right now, and it's day 2, day 3 of the transfer window. I know clubs do business before it officially opens, but that's pretty insane. And I think with pre-season tour coming in the next 3-4 weeks, I think clubs are trying to get deals done very early, get things sorted so that they got their players in, and I think they're learning from what Arsenal and Man City, listen, clubs have been doing this for years, but Arsenal and Man City, the 2 best teams in the league last year, had their business done really nice and early for pre-season, and I think everyone's trying to follow that model, so I think it might be a crazy first month, and then it might just simmer down and calm down as we actually return to the football. Let me know your thoughts on everything. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel, please do, because then you get updates on everything I'm uploading. I'm going to try and make this Friday segment a weekly thing with transfer updates, looking at what's been happening in the week, so if you enjoy it, let me know, and otherwise if there's anything else to cover, I will do it on the channel, of course. Big thanks to everyone. I'll see you very soon.